Welcome to the Fair Lawn Chamber of Commerce Business Spotlight and Networking event. My name is Alan Cohen. I'm co-owner of Living Great Real Estate. Together with my wife, Evelyn Cohen, the broker owner, we own Living Great Real Estate here in Fair Lawn. We're happy to be hosting and moderating this event today and spotlight some of our local businesses in Fair Lawn. Today, I have a wonderful guest for you. His name is Kirk Johnson. Kirk Johnson is the owner of IntelliGenz Business Solutions here in Fair Lawn. They provide consulting services to small businesses. I'd like to say hello to Kirk. Hi, Kirk. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Alan. How are you?
Great, great. Thank you for joining us today. And the spotlight is on you. So it's great to see you. It's great to get in front of small businesses and businesses in Fair Lawn and see how we're dealing with obviously the COVID-19 pandemic and how we're surviving the business and how we're going to continue to survive. So why don't you give us a little background about your business so that our fellow members could understand what you actually do in town?
Sure. IntelliGenz Business Solutions is a small business consulting organization. We work on trying to fight chaos in your business so that you don't end up working for your business. Instead, your business is working for you. Have a couple ways we approach that. I'm a certified QuickBooks Pro advisor, which means I can come in and help you clean up your accounting, get that running well so that you're having real-time numbers, train you how to use QuickBooks, fix problems in QuickBooks. I'm also a Profit First professional, which helps you with getting your cash flow together. As we know, 83% of small businesses before COVID lived paycheck to paycheck and were barely holding on. And Profit First helps you get a system in place that eliminates that. Their motto is working to eliminate entrepreneurial poverty.
Right.
And then the other thing that I work on is helping devise systems and processes to let you run your business instead of the other way around.
Let me just ask, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Sure.
I know about QuickBooks. We'll get into that. I've been using it for many years. But Profit First, I'm not really aware of that company and the training it provided towards you. So could you explain a little bit about Profit First?
Absolutely. Profit First was developed by Mike Michalowicz, a well-known small business author. He's written several books on small business. Profit First was one of the first to get noticed. It's a training system where normally we're taught that sales minus expenses equals profits. And as small business owners know, by the time you get to the profits part, there's not a whole lot, if anything. Right. And so he kind of turned that on its head and said, if you do sales minus profits, you equal expenses. So the math is still exactly the same, but the psychology is completely different. You end up actually taking home some money, starting to put away for the reason that you bought your business in the first place, whether it was to build something for your kids or build something that made money so that you had time for family, or you just wanted to get stinking rich, whatever your goal was. This system helps you do that instead of always being behind the eight ball.
Right. That's pretty interesting. So do you focus mainly on small businesses, or any kind of business could really get under your program?
Well, Profit First works for businesses from 100,000 up to 100 million. And they have a whole percentage program laid out based on your revenues, and you do an evaluation, and then you start to lay out how you're going to get from where you are now to where you need to be. It's a very, very interesting, and once you start to learn about it, it's a pretty intuitive program, and that was his whole idea. He actually became a multimillionaire, had built two companies and sold them for a whole lot of money, and then he thought he was all that, and ended up on Valentine's Day. He tells the story. He had to go and admit to his wife that he's lost all his money because he had been investing in smaller businesses because he thought he was such a brilliant person.
Wow.
So then he started to relook at everything, and one night was looking at a diet video about small plates and started to build his program from there, realizing that because one of the things that they said in the diet video is eating is about psychology. It's not just about counting calories and things like that. You can come up with any diet you want, but if it doesn't match the way you think, then it's never going to work. And so he realized and started to put that together with businesses, and said one of his examples is Apollo 13. The guys went up, and as we know, the oxygen scrubber went bad, and so they're up there stuck. They're looking at dying in space, and the mission control, the guy walks in with a box of about $100 worth of parts, dumps them on the table with the engineers, and said, "This is what we have. Let's make an oxygen scrubber." So after spending hundreds of millions of dollars to put the Apollo program together and coming up with this really fancy thing, they're told these are the only resources you have, and they came up with a workable solution for the guys to get home. So the idea is, if you always look at your checkbook and there's always money in there, oh, well, that's how much I have to spend. Whereas reality is, some of that money's already committed to your rent. Some of that's committed to your payroll. Some of that's committed to sales tax and all the other expenses that you have. So what you have in your checkbook isn't really what you have to spend, and yet we all spend it anyway.
Sure. I mean, obviously, as a small business, I've been running a small business together with my wife for many years. We're doing Living Great Real Estate now. We're also a music publisher and licensing for many years. And as independent entrepreneurs, it's very hard, as you say, to you get paid, and right away everything goes out towards expenses, whatever.
Right.
I mean, including insurance for your business, including for your home, including for your health insurance. It comes in and it goes out faster than you ever see it. So does this give you ways to treat those fixed income as opposed to, what's changing all the time, right?
Right. And some of what it does is, I mean, some of people who have been around for a while remember the envelopes method of personal finance. Mom used to come home and put a little money in the grocery envelope, a little money in the rent envelope. And this is a similar idea for business, where you take out for your certain fixed expenses, like you say. You're going to pay rent, you're going to pay taxes, and so you take out for some of those, and then leave your checking account, and that's what you have to spend on advertising this month, or that's what you have to spend on a new whatever website. And then you start to figure out how to be creative and do things a little smarter.
So how does this really change your mindset from spending it all and doing that compared to saving some or having for yourself?
It's a system, and part of what it's saying to pay you, or one of the things that you have to do is to actually pay yourself. I mean, the small business's most important employee is you, and so you need to consider yourself a fixed expense instead of being the leftover at the end of the month. And so this devises a system, and to a certain point, some of the accounts, it divides some certain accounts, but some of the accounts are actually at a separate bank that makes it inconvenient for you to get to, because you send the money over there, and then, because if it's all in the same bank and you can electronically transfer it, it's like, oh, I'll just borrow this month from there. And we all know this month and next month and next month, and then there's no more to borrow. But if you have to actually walk to the other bank or drive down the street, then you have a little time to think, is this really what I need to do? Or do I really need to just cut out the HBO on the cable at the office?
Not by Netflix. No, we're watching too many series now. especially during quarantine, right?
Exactly.
How
Yep.
many did we finish? Way too many. So let me ask you this, Kirk. What is your background that you got into consulting now? You mentioned a few things to me earlier about that you were in the video business. So what is your background?
I've been in business most of my life. When I left school, I went into banking. I've worked as a distribution coordinator for Haagen-Dazs, and then
Hmm.
one day, I like I guess many small business people, I saw an ad in a paper for a video store in Ridgewood, and I'm like, well, any idiot can run a video store, so
You're
we
the
bought it. I was it. I was the idiot, and then
you know.
again, like many small business owners, we got into it and realized there are so many things that go into running a small business that you don't realize.
Sure.
And I know that's prevalent because we're standing there at the counter and working hard and trying to do all the things that we're supposed to do, and people would come in, and it was quite obvious that they figured that every dollar they slide across the counter goes right into my pocket.
Plus.
And so we did that for about 15 years. And then when the video business wound down, we closed up and I went and worked for a big box retailer.
So,
Uh,
so obviously, as you know, like Blockbuster and everything else, the technology has changed, and
yep.
it's always changing. It's changing now. Look how we're on Zoom right now. This is like a norm of a business meeting. So, really, you adapted to that change as quickly as possible as you saw Blockbuster going out and whatever other video stores going out, and you saw technology changing. There was no way to really, for you to change inside that type of a business, though, because the format itself went out. So you saw no way out of that or no way to revive that. Is that what happened?
That's correct. We were one of the first, probably the only in town to have a website. We started to offer drop ship online shipping for DVDs and products that people were buying. So we did try and do as much of the, and at that point, www, everybody's like, well, what the heck is that? But we were out there trying to do that as well. And we actually even were one of the only in the area that you could log in, see what was in stock, and reserve it for that night. So we tried our best to be adaptive, but Netflix and streaming video just ate everybody up.
Yeah. All right. So you adapted. Is that when you went into this business consulting, or did you do something in between that?
In between that, unfortunately, I took a volunteer job and made it a full-time job and worked for the Valley Hospital for a while as an EMT because I had a sick wife.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. And I needed to be home with her more often. And then once she passed, then I came into the consulting business.
Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that. So
thank you.
So it's tough. I'm really condolences. I'm sorry about that. So being a businessman, and your wife was in the business with you before?
My wife actually was in retail all her life. She started at 18 years old. She was at Orbox and then worked her way up to as well assistant manager at a Christmas tree shop.
So you guys did have a lot of business in your background. And,
absolutely.
Entrepreneurs and all that stuff. All right. So now getting into the business, you also mentioned that you're a QuickBook specialist, or what's your actual title on QuickBooks?
QuickBooks Pro Advisor. That's a certification that I have to recertify every year. As a matter of fact, this afternoon I have a webinar on what's the latest on QuickBooks Online.
How did you know that? I use QuickBooks every day.
Yeah. And a lot of people are under the misconception that QuickBooks is for your accountant, that they'll, but someone like you knows full well that you really need to use QuickBooks every day. Otherwise, how do you know where you stand?
Yeah. So how do you incorporate that into your consulting business, being a QuickBooks Pro Advisor?
I do training, a lot of QuickBooks training. I do QuickBooks cleanup and fixing. So that and I teach people what those numbers really mean and why it's not just for your accountant. Plus, we do offer basic bookkeeping services.
Right. So the basis of your business now, what kind of clients are you going after? What kind of clients do you need in the future? And a little bit about, your clientele that you are servicing.
The clients I'm servicing now are under control. They are starting to look at things like getting the Profit First fully implemented into their businesses, where we have regular meetings on what your books mean and everything's clean. Clients I'm looking for are people who are a mess, which is probably 90% of small businesses. Exactly. People who
from wave that again so people can. Oh, there you go.
We just started painting a garage, a couple days ago, and we had to take out these cabinets, these lateral files, out of the garage because we had to do the floor and paint the walls. And so it meant physically removing the files from each of the drawers. And now it's all sitting in one room, way up this high. And I'm looking at it going, oh my God,
right.
What a mess.
Cleaning up your books, as they say.
Exactly. And that's what I'm looking for. Somebody who maybe had QuickBooks or didn't really know how to use QuickBooks and have finally reached the point where they say, you know what, I can't do this way anymore. Mm-hmm. Whether it's, I don't know what my people are doing. I mean, we'll help you write policies and procedure manuals. We'll look at how to, at your business and what procedures make the most sense and how to do things most efficiently. And that includes looking at your books, what makes the most sense, getting those cleaned up, reconciled, in order, and then teach you how to maintain that. And then we'll do accountability. We'll do a weekly check-in or a monthly check-in or whatever. And then all of that feeds into the Profit First, which absolutely we can show you how to do it. As a matter of fact, you can go online and get 5 chapters, or you contact me and I'll give you the first 5 chapters of the book for free. You can figure it out. But that's also like going to the gym. Somebody can show you how to use all the equipment, but if you don't have a weekly meeting with your trainer, you know that in 2 weeks you'll be getting there sometime soon. And then it's all for nothing.
Right. So so do you set them on a program? Do you have hourly wages? I mean, I'm not going to ask you, what you charge right now, but so do you do it by an hourly thing? Do you do by a monthly?
I do flat rate because I like for there to be no surprises between you and me, and we'll sit down and we'll set up a course and figure out what makes the most sense for you, and then we'll give you the price on what that is, and then we go from there.
Great. So, has the business changed since this quarantine? Are you finding more people struggling to keep it together because they are working from home, or has it not affected your end of the business?
For me, I'm fairly lucky, and most of my businesses have been able to continue to work, either due to their size or what industry they're in. Some are landscapers, some are one-man handyman. So most of them have been able to work. A couple have been severely impacted. One's a restaurant, and he's hurting. Another's a large company that works with pharmaceuticals, and they were easily able to shift to all working from home. So it's different, but a lot of it's the same.
Right. So you really have to be able to switch, at a dime, how your business operates. And you were talking a little earlier with Evelyn before about, the business you mentioned about the restaurant that you're talking about right now, who they're really hurting a lot. Could you give us some insight on that, on, some of the businesses that are really being impacted right now?
Well, I think this is going to be a real tough time for, I think, everybody's waiting for Governor Murphy to flip the switch. And I think everybody is kind of hoping that we're going to just, go back to the store, turn on the lights, and everybody will come rushing in. But I really don't believe that that's going to be the way it is. If we watch the states that are already opening, You have people saying, well, that's great, I can go to the restaurant, I'm not going. You have other restaurant owners that say or hair salons or other owners that say, that's great, I can open my store, I'm not going.
Mhm.
And even my restaurant owner now is struggling with trying to get his people to come back. And that's because of the generous um, unemployment benefits. So to me, that kind of pushes the $15 an hour. Out in the Western states, restaurants have started to drop the whole idea of tipping. We're the only country left that tips restaurant employees and expects them to live on that wage. And so out in the Western states, they've started paying their people $15 an hour and eliminated the idea of tipping. And I think that's going to accelerate here because you're not going to get people to come back now that they've had a taste of the fact that, geez, I don't have to scrape and scrimp to make a living, or I shouldn't have to. I should be able to make a living wage. And so, plus you're gonna have to convince them to come back, that it's safe to come back.
We weren't really talking about restaurant and tipping, but that is a very valuable point, because I know a lot of these restaurants pay, about $2.50 an hour, and expect the waitresses and waiters to work on the tips. And then in a lot of restaurants, people don't tip so much,
Well, the other thing to consider is when they come back, we're probably talking 25 to 50% seating.
Sure.
So you've cut off right there off the top 25 to 50 or 50 to 75% of your people walking in potentially giving you tips. So that's that. But yeah, I'm sorry. It also
to go. A lot of food is pick up. So
right.
The pickup. It's $25. You pay $25 with your credit card, and you're out the door.
Exactly.
I think that though the tip is built into that though, isn't it? When you're doing these orders online, and then they expect you to build the tip in there, and I think it
depends on the platform. Some platforms let you do that, other like DoorDash and Uber Eats and that. But if you're going to a local restaurant that just lets you order online, most of those expect you to either tip the guy at the door or call the restaurant and say, add it to my credit card.
Mm-hmm.
So your business, once again, let's get back to your business. So you're working with restaurant owners, you're working with all types of businesses?
Yeah, my specialty, because of my background, is retail, and restaurants are sort of a retail, but yeah, retail is definitely, and I think, back to your question, I think retailers are going to have to rethink from their floor plans to everything else. Maybe they're going to have to slim down their product lines and plan on giving more floor space, because the key to the whole thing is people are not going to come back unless they feel safe to come in your store. And if you have a crowded little store that people bump into each other and bump into the racks, they're not going to want to do that. And you're going to have to be, and forget the CDC guidelines, you're going to have to come up with guidelines that make people feel safe. I have a friend who owns a barbershop down in Georgia. They published online a video of their new safety guidelines so that all their patrons can look on Facebook and say, this is what these guys are doing. And I think that's phenomenal. Because right now, everybody,
including an online menu where you have to order from a screen as opposed to having a physical menu in your hands.
Right, and a lot of restaurants are now going to forget the big diner menu. They're going to paper menus that you take it and it's yours, because they don't want you to hand it back.
So obviously we're all adapting to this as fast as we can. But like you said, it's a matter of people are going to be willing to come back. Even if they open it up, are they willing to come back? I mean, the beaches were open, and I told my wife and kids, let's give it 2 weeks. If everybody lives, maybe we'll go to the sorry to be that dark, but
it's true.
I wasn't running to the beach that weekend.
Absolutely.
We went before the beach went open and walked on the boardwalk where there were not a lot of people. That felt okay. And we still had our masks and stuff, but really to go into the shark's tank, I'm not ready for that. And the same with the businesses, stores that are open. And then the same thing, different type of stores. I think they're having a problem with different type of stores and differentiating what type of stores are really opening up and what's essential and what is not essential. Same thing with, the religious institutes, churches, synagogues, mosques, whatever it is. Why can't a certain amount of people walk in there and
Right.
social distance? So
While Walmart's open.
Yeah. Well,
and there was too many people. I got nervous. We left.
yeah, it's interesting, and I can see some, like Walmart sells groceries, so and Walmart sells home repair stuff, but the other part, other things that they sell are not fair advantage. If Kohl's is closed, why can Walmart sell clothes? If Best Buy is closed, why can Walmart sell TVs? So, I mean, I understand the frustration with some people, but again, it's going to have to come back to feeling safe before people walk in. And people are going to feel safer walking into a Walmart or a BJ's because they're huge and you can walk around without bumping into somebody. But if you're walking
one way or the other, you walk down this aisle that way, right?
I mean, I was in Stop and Shop ShopRite the other night, and I was trying to keep my 6 feet distance, and the guy in front of me didn't think it was 6 feet enough. So he's like, "Hey, buddy, let's back up." So I think that's going to be the new normal, and that's the way people are going to feel. And if your store is small and crowded, rather than risk bumping into somebody literally or aggravating or fighting with somebody, they'll go to someplace else. So you need to, and the other thing too, I really, really, really believe is that you need to be digitally present right now. You need to offer online shopping. You need to offer online ordering. You need to offer curbside pickup, regardless of who you are, whether you're a restaurant or a store or whatever. So it's
what business is it primarily online, or do you actually meet with clients too, or did you meet with clients?
I set myself up to be before I got remarried. My plan was to put my dogs in an RV and just travel the country while I serviced my clients. So my business is all virtual, but I do meet regularly with my clients. So I've been to all of their places of business, and will happily go anytime. But
right. So as you're working with them on QuickBooks and preparing with them, a plan to move forward with Profit First, you can do that virtually.
Absolutely.
On a Zoom meeting.
That's as long as the Wi-Fi strength is good in the Ozark Mountains. Mind you, with this new 5G, if our brains don't fry before we get to use the Wi-Fi, we should be good.
There you go. Yep. No, it's QuickBooks. I generally use the QuickBooks online, and then Profit First we can do through Zoom meetings and that kind of thing. So yeah.
Let me just ask you a little bit about QuickBooks. I know we went all the way around, and I'm coming back to that because as a small business owner, I've been using QuickBooks for many, 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 many years. Obviously, first coming from Quicken over to QuickBooks, I set up my own account. I think the hardest part I have is when you're making the subcategories, keeping them in order and what's really true expenses and, like we said, what's fixed expenses and all that, and how we differentiate all these different areas of your business. I could do a P&L and it does come out, but then I have like an area that petty cash where money comes in and out, right? And
right.
It doesn't all tally out the way it's supposed to be. And then somebody might want a different type of report. So we really have to get into all the reports on QuickBooks to make it as efficient and work for you so you can analyze your business.
Right. Every business is going to be a little bit different. I mean, QuickBooks comes with some standard reports that everybody wants to know. I have a nonprofit though that runs different special events, and they want to know how did this special event go versus that special event, and so sometimes you got to get a little tricky in how you set things up. Otherwise you have a chart of accounts that's 8 pages long, and it's just so unwieldy that your profit and loss is 3 pages long, and you get so overwhelmed with data that it doesn't help. So yeah, reporting. But the nice thing about QuickBooks is it is versatile and it can slice the bread several different ways.
Right. And then that client can bring that to their accountant, or could they email the file to their accountant to read it, or how does it go from there into the accounting level for taxes?
Well, the beauty of QuickBooks Online is that you can invite your accountant to join you. You can have up to 2 accountants. So you can have a bookkeeper and you can have an accountant that can log right into your QuickBooks, and they can, rather than waiting for that, trying to figure out what they're talking about when they're asking for a trial balance report and this report and that report, you just tell them, use your login, go get it yourself. And so if they feel like they're working at 3:00 in the morning on the 14th of April, they can look at your QuickBooks Online and get whatever information they need. So it saves the frustration of the accountant from saying, look, this is the 15th time I've asked you for this. And it also saves the user from having to try and figure out what the accountant's actually looking for. Because
that's interesting. You just mentioned QuickBooks Online. I use a desktop version. I'm on a Macintosh, obviously, and I'm using it online. I don't have access to it on the internet. Can I switch it over to that type of an account?
Absolutely. And if you're using it on a Mac, I would highly recommend it, because QuickBooks for Apple products was slow to be introduced, and is not nearly as good as some of their desktop product for the PC or their online. But yeah, you can absolutely upload your file right up to QuickBooks Online subscription, and you're all good to go.
Well, actually, subscription, I mean, I bought it at one time and I just update it once in a while. So a subscription obviously is a monthly fee that you're going to add to your expenses.
Right. So yeah, some people object to the idea that you're paying a monthly fee, and it is a monthly fee, and it is more expensive than using your desktop. The advantages are, one, that you have the connectivity so that your accountant, your accountant can be at his summer house in Florida, and you can be here in Jersey, and the two of you can be looking at exactly the same books at exactly the same time online on a phone call. So that's one you get. Two is you don't ever buy updates, because they update monthly. So every new feature that rolls out, boom, you wake up on June 3rd and suddenly it's already there available for you. And they're constantly coming out with new stuff. And three, you don't ever have to worry about your computer crashing, because everything's stored in the cloud. So you don't need to make backups. You don't need to worry about losing your data, because they have it for you. And it's also available if you suddenly are on vacation and you're at the Marriott and need to know how your business is doing, you can log into your QuickBooks right there from your desktop, from your laptop. So
Sure.
I very much like QBO.
Yeah.
Can we deduct that from our accountant's fees? Stu, you listening? Can we tell our accountant that because we've availed the online access for him to go in and do what he needs to pull whatever reports and or reconcile things, that we can deduct it from his fee that we have to pay them?
No, Evelyn, not from his fee. It's from your business expenses.
No, I know, but if the accountant gets the pleasure and the ease of going in, we should be able to take it. Just kidding, Stu.
I'm going to open this up for a few minutes, but before we do that, I just want to, Kirk, I want to thank you very much for sharing this. And if you have a closing statement
Good stuff.
or something you'd like to say, and then we'll open up the floor. Okay?
No, I appreciate the opportunity. I'm new to the Fair Lawn Chamber, so I'm happy to be able to take this opportunity to introduce myself. I hope there's some small businesses out there that'll give me a call, and I know that we can help you make life less frustrating.
How do we find you?
I have a website, www.IntelliGenz, which is IntelliGenz business.com. And I'm also available on Facebook at IntelliGenz Business Solutions.
Mhm.
My email is kjohnson@intelligenzbusiness.com.
Terrific. So let me ask you before we open it up, since you joined the Fair Lawn Chamber of Commerce, how has the networking been for you? Has that helped spread the word of your business? Obviously, when we were, one-on-one and we're at a meeting and stuff like that, you could give out your cards. Obviously, a change, and that's why we're trying to do these online events. But has the networking and being a member of the chamber, you think helped your business, or at least aligning you with other businesses?
Not yet, because I joined right in the middle of COVID. So
When did you actually become a member?
about 2 months ago. So right in the middle of COVID. But I used to, when I had the video store in Ridgewood, I was actually on the board of the Ridgewood Chamber. So I think that chambers are very valuable, and I've been a previous member of the North Jersey Regional Chamber.
Right.
So I love chambers. I think they're a great place for business to interact and work together to get things done.
Right. Well, welcome to the Fair Lawn Chamber, and we all like to make you comfortable and wish your business a lot of success in town.
Thank you.
And really anybody watching this, and we could use this as a social media that we could post after we posted online the video, and we hope you share that with all your connections, and we'll share it the same.
Absolutely.
Get the word out so that we could put the business spotlight on IntelliGenz and Kirk Johnson. Thank you very much, Kirk.
Thank you, Alan.
We'll open it up a little bit. If anybody has a question or like to ask Kirk something, there's not many of us here, but it'd be nice if anybody would like.
I'd like to ask a question,
Sure,
if it's okay.
sure.
Kurt, so during these times, obviously, are you recruiting? Are you finding people are reaching out to you sort of on their own, just finding you randomly? Or are you finding that you still are doing a big push to them? Are you going out to them a lot right now during COVID?
It's a little bit of both, and it's interesting. It's frustrating. Like, I'm sure anybody who's in the service industry, I've been passing out cards for 8 years now, and there are people that I talked to 2-3 years ago that are like, yeah, I'm kind of interested. And then all of a sudden they call you today and they're like, oh my God, I need you tomorrow. It's like, well, where have you been the last 2 years? But okay. But yeah, no, it's a whole building the pipeline thing. And so I am hearing from some people that I thought I would never hear from again. And then there are also other times that I'm having to do networking and get out there. People are scared. That's the other part of it, is a lot of businesses who really want help right now are like, how am I ever going to afford you? Because I haven't been open for 3 months. So,
Yeah.
So, but are you finding that you have to push out like email campaigns or anything?
oh, absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
that? And just to kind of get in front of your audience and remind them, hey, I'm here. Hello, give me a call. I can answer your questions right now. Let me help.
And that's the other thing, and that goes to all of us. I mean, every business, as I've said before, is that nobody knows who's still open,
right?
And nobody knows who's still around. And so if they don't see you on social media or hear from you in email, and this goes for retailers or me or anybody, if they don't see your presence online, because that's where everybody's living right now, they're going to assume that you've fallen under the wheel of COVID.
Sure.
And that you may not ever re-enter. So I definitely, and this is something Profit First has been pushing all of us, is that you have to remind people that you're there and you care. And
stay relevant.
Exactly. Well, and just the other thing too is, and the one thing I like about Profit First very much is they're very human. They are caring, and they are interested in doing things because we're all in this together, and not just we need to make some money.
Right.
So
good stuff.
Like what you said about Profit First, about that even as a small independent business, you still have to pay yourself first. So
right.
If you take that 10% out or whatever it is, you'll pay your other expenses. You'll figure everything out. But if you do take something for yourself, at least you're putting it somewhere for your own good, because you're working harder, like you said, than anybody else. You might be your only business. You're the only person in your business. So if you don't pay yourself, nobody's going to pay you, and then all the money just goes out the door.
Exactly.
Yeah, great. Stuart, it's nice to see you. Stuart's on the executive board. Thank you for not driving by us today, and you're actually at a desktop.
Yes.
Well, nice to see you. Welcome to our event. Do you have anything to ask Kirk? Or just...
I do. I heard a few interesting things. First, Kirk, welcome to the Fair Lawn Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you.
Tough times, and we certainly will reach out physically when we are able to. I was going to ask questions on the consulting and the QuickBooks, but you mentioned the term profit first, and I don't know if that's a company, if that's a concept. I know that as a former accountant, that was a concept we used because small businesses tend to take care of everything first and then say, oh, I'll take what's left. And if they do that, they're going to forego their paycheck or their monthly amount. So for us, it was not profit first. It was pay yourself first. Yeah. Take 100 a week, take 1,000 a week, take whatever it is you can, and the rest will fall into place if it's able. Is that where you were headed with that, or is there actually something called profit first that I misunderstood?
No, it's an actual book written by Mike Michalowicz, but what you're saying is absolutely the basis of what he's done, and he's profit first. If you go to profitfirstprofessionals.com, it gives you a whole lot about it, but that's the idea. And what he's done is he's taken it and systematized. So there are percentages devised to help you pay your taxes and yourself and all of that based on your revenue and size of your business and that kind of stuff. So he's kind of organized it into a whole system and a process on how to do that.
Okay, that sounds great. I mean, I had clients who we would tell them to, let's say they were a corporation, we tell them to take a paycheck, put it in the drawer, cash it as soon as you can, but don't wait to see about everything else. Okay, so two areas that I heard you talk about was, one was the consulting, and two was the QuickBooks, which I know is consulting also. And I guess my question goes to, which one is your main business? And well, let's go to that first, and then I'll come back with the other question.
Well, I got into this with the idea of doing the consulting as a main business, and both the teaching of the QuickBooks and helping you understand how to use what the numbers mean, and then all of that ties in with the profit first. That's what I got into the business to do. And when I started the business, I found that people mainly understood, bookkeeping. So right now, I'm kind of in a shift. I'm one leg in the bookkeeping and one leg into the consulting, and I'm moving more towards the consulting. But absolutely, good bookkeeping, as I'm sure you know, is the basis of any other part of consulting that you're going to do. So,
and it can help pay the bills.
And it does help pay the bills.
Are you physically located? Do you have a storefront? Are you working out of your house? Are you where are you? What's your?
I am in my basement office here in my home in Fair Lawn.
Okay.
But I do everything virtually, and so and the question was earlier. I've been out and met and will work with all of my clients on site as well. I mean,
so a suggestion, and thank you for that, by the way. A suggestion might be, not right now, but maybe in 2-3 months. Have you ever done a complimentary QuickBooks webinar? And I'm talking about strictly basics. You're not going to get into what you give. You're not going to give away what you do for a living.
Right. No, I haven't.
A teaser.
Yeah, I just got my camera last week. I have paid for, thank you. I paid for my Zoom subscription, and so that's all
ready to go
in the works. Exactly. That was the whole point of it.
So that might be something that would get you out there. If you talk to Tony and schedule an hour webinar and keep it real general, but that might be able to let people see that you know what the heck you're talking about, and they might, I would think, have questions that follow-ups are chargeable. You know, you're not going to say that on the seminar, but that might be a way for me seeing you to get out there in terms of the Fair Lawn Chamber.
Right.
As Alan and Ellen and Evelyn have said, it's about being out there, being on the face of your business. Alan is doing this every week and getting people involved. We are somewhat limited to networking events because of time, and I shouldn't say availability, because a lot of people aren't doing anything else.
Right.
They're working, but they're not. So maybe that's something you might consider, and it'll get you ingrained into the chamber and get people to know who the heck you are.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Stuart. I mean, like I said, I'm using QuickBooks many, many years, my business, but I could always use more tips from a specialist, from yourself. And like you said, Stuart, it's not like you're going to be giving everything away. So now I don't need Kirk as a consultant, but I believe being an expert in your field and showing people that you are an expert does make people want to trust you to go further. Hey, that was great. I learned so much in this brief general webinar that you gave. I really need to dig into my business. Now, Kirk, let's talk about your services, how you can really help our business.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I find that with these videos, myself doing many different, I'm doing them for my record company, ACM Records. I'm doing them for the Fair Lawn Chamber. I do them for William Patterson.
Living great.
Yeah, and Living Great, the real estate company. And really what's happening is, well, we don't get paid for this, but people do see you every week. You get to post it on social media. People like it. They know that you haven't gone under. And I did a business continuation plan. I'm going to post that online too. And Stuart was online when we did that. And in that, the research I found, after a pandemic or a crisis as this, at least 25% of the businesses do not come back.
Right.
And why don't they come back? Well, one may be because of the physical thing, obviously this and that, but also because if you don't adapt right away to this forum, people at least know you're still there, and you don't have to do anything but what you normally do anyway, but people don't know you're there. So you really have to take advantage of the formula. Never let a good pandemic go to waste. I mean, that's a terrible expression, but, as business owners, you have to adapt your business 6 months every year or a year and a half anyway. So
absolutely.
So, Kirk, on the 16th of June, we are holding a general membership meeting. It's our monthly meeting.
Right.
I would suggest you attend. I've been moderating it. I will make sure that we introduce new members, and we'll give you a minute or two to talk about yourself, 5 minutes. Tell us who you are, what you do, and just arrange it with Tony in advance if you would. I'm sure you met Tony if you've become a member.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a good start. And maybe by then you will have thought out a seminar that you can advertise or put out there and make it the following week or something like that.
Okay.
When are we doing the chamber dance? Can we do a virtual dance? No, we can't do that, I guess. So,
only in our minds.
Only in our minds. All right. So to close it out, I'd like to thank you very much for having the Fair Lawn Chamber of Commerce have me moderate this business spotlight and networking event. I'd like to thank our guest, Kirk Johnson of the IntelliGenz Business Solutions for companies. And my name is Alan Cohen. I am Managing Director of Living Great Real Estate here in Fair Lawn. I want to thank the Chamber for having me and our guests and who's ever been involved in this webinar. Thank you very much, everyone. Please stay safe. Thank you.
And have a good weekend.
Take care.